joined now by Kehinde, who believes that Enid Blyton shows a lack of diversity in her books, and also Amanda Platell has joined us again, who thinks the author was writing in a different era. Good morning to both of you. I mean, the thing is, Amanda, you have to say, when we think about some of the way that things are portrayed in her books, when we think about some of the characters, do you feel uncomfortable with that? Do you think, actually, we should be looking at it with different eyes now?
I don't feel uncomfortable at all. I see it as something that was generational. It was something from the past. And I know Kai is going to disagree with me here, but I don't think that we can view the past through a prism of the present. I think we have to accept that the world was different then, that there were different kind of stereotypes, we had different views about racism, sexuality, all sorts of things. But I actually see it as almost like a benefit to read a child a book like that these days and say, see that little black doll there with the fuzzy hair, which I can't even say the name. I can't even use that term.
Well, we're
anymore.
not going to this one.
No,
It is incredibly offensive.
And you would explain to a child, you'd say, now, then it was OK, but now it's not the kind of word you'd ever use, and these are the reasons why. So I'd use Enid Blyton today as a teaching tool for kids.
Well, to be fair to Kehinde, so far on this programme, and I'm including our viewers who've emailed in a lot, everybody is in support of what you've said. We haven't heard one voice, other than quoting what the Royal Mint said, against Enid Blyton. So, that falls to you. Why is it right to judge people in the past by the standards of the present, do you think?
Yeah, because commemoration's about what we do now, right? And we have this strange commemorative culture where everybody that we kind of reminisce about should get a stamp or a coin or a statue. And that's not the point. Commemoration says, what do we value today? And the reason why Enid Blyton isn't worthy of a commemorative coin is exactly the same reason they cut the G words out of Noddy. It's just wildly inappropriate. She was racist, her books were racist, they were heterosexist, they had a really narrow view of Britain.
You mean racist because of the black doll?
No, it's not just the black doll, it's the story, some of the stories in these books. If you look at, there's a story called The Black Doll, where the black doll is really dark and ugly and runs away and gets washed in the rain and comes back white and everybody loves him. I mean, these are racist stories. And so what the committee said was, yes, she's popular, but actually, because of that racism, in the 21st century, that's not something we want to support.
However, they said it was because of the backlash. They were concerned about a backlash from the public because of it. Can we not celebrate her, though, from the point of view that she is the 7th most successful author of all time? She had, there's no doubt she's inspired generations and generations of readers because they read her books as children. And yes, of course, we look at subject matters, characters, the way things are written now with different eyes to how they were at the time.
Why do we have to commemorate her? I mean, you can celebrate her. It doesn't wipe her out of history to say that actually the values in her books are not values in the 21st century.
Would you remove her books to extend this from libraries, say, or from bookshops?
I wouldn't like say that. I would say we should ban Enid Blyton and get rid of her. But there is a reality. The Centre for Literary Education did a study called the Reflecting Realities. In 2017, only 1% of books published in this country had a black or Asian character as a main character.
But that's not racism she's being accused of. It's homophobia.
And the point is that if you look at children's books today, they still are really very much conservative around race, around gender, and heterosexuality. And the fact that she is still so popular is actually an indictment, because it's saying that what images are we putting through to our young people?
Amanda?
I mean, I just get really confused here. Homophobic, that's all to do with Noddy and Big Ears, right? I thought they had a rather lovely gay relationship. Why is it suddenly seen as being, anti-gay because she kind of snuck in a gay relationship or a close relationship?
What about sexist? She's sexist, apparently.
What's sexist about it? She certainly had more male role models or more male characters than women, than girls, but she had lots of really great
girls. Mallory Towers, that's set in the girls'
And
club.
what are we going to do? Are we going to ban Lord of the Flies? Because
nobody said
had all boys.
Nobody
said that. To be fair, he's not
saying we should ban the books.
But I find it interesting that you can't even, the whole notion, part of what we are today is what we've been in the past, and some of that was marvellous and some of it wasn't great.
Wasn't great, exactly.
But I just find trying to... can I say black it out? Is that OK? Can I white it? I don't know what colour to say I can out. But, trying to just say, oh, that's all terrible.
Trying to erase all of that.
Trying to erase, saying that is all terrible, and putting these horrible labels on things.
No, but that's...
And kind of, is it to a certain extent? I mean, when we look at the background of authors, their views, when we look at, classical musicians, composers, when we look at artists over the years, we wouldn't be celebrating anybody, because if you dig around deep enough, then there's quite a fair few of them out there with unacceptable views, with, you know, not very nice things in their backgrounds.
And maybe we should say that this is problematic. And again, I bring you back to the Centre for Literature and Primary Education Research. This is still a problem today. The books we're giving our kids today are hugely gendered and racialised, and it's something we need to change. We shouldn't be deifying Enid Blyton. We should say, look, that was nice, it's past.
But you're trying to...
And now we move on. There's other things to read. Just read
One
other
of the things about books is that people buy the books they like.
But it's parents buying these books. The reason Enid Blyton is popular is because parents are buying
pick up on
books,
Charlotte's
not
point
kids.
here. I mean, let's take something quite recent. Catch-22, Joseph Heller. Wonderful book. Won many, many awards. Just been televised by George Clooney. Now, Joseph Heller, the author's attitude to women in Catch-22 is terrible. Yeah. Absolutely terrible. Yeah. He, frankly, portrays most of them as prostitutes. I mean, it's, you know, it's not a good look. And yet there was no debate about the resurrection of that story as a mainstream global TV series. So my point would be this. If you draw a line, say, on the calendar of 1955 and go backwards from there, as you say, Charlotte, you're going to find pretty much everybody in public life, let alone private life, had some issues as we would see them today. Wagner, for example, one of the greatest composers in the history of classical music, was a fascist. Yeah. Was a fascist. And the difference between his musical profile and his political profile couldn't have been greater. Yeah, but what are we going to do about all this? Surely we just have to accept that that's how it was then.
But there's a difference between appreciating the work or the music, and I like music by some questionable people, and saying we should put them on a stamp or give them a statue or commemorate them. And this is the difference. You don't have to commemorate these people.
They did marvellous things. In someone like Enid Blyton, she didn't just do incredible things. You know, she was, as a woman, I have huge admiration for her. You know, she was a prolific writer, wrote brilliant books.
She got a generation to read.
Introduced millions of kids to read.
That is not true. Kids read what they are given. This is part of the problem. The schools give these books, parents buy these books. You give your kid anything.
You try reading.
You
can't deny these.
That's why people like
she percolated children's interest in reading.
I can say that my kids are avid readers and none of them have ever read Enid Blyton. You give a kid something to read, they're going to read it. And you could have done it without Enid Blyton. That's
I have to say, though, I thought one of the coolest cuts of all, actually, in terms of the Royal Mint, was when they said, naturally, she wasn't a very good writer. Well, actually, that's a very subjective thing to say. And as we were saying earlier, there are lots of incredibly successful, popular writers like J.K. Rowling. You could criticise some of what J.K. Rowling writes. Some of her prose is a bit lumpy, but she's a great storyteller, fabulous storyteller, and a huge success in her own right. But I think that kind of snobbish literary criticism has no place in what the Royal Mint...
She's not Jane Austen, is she? I mean,
no, exactly. She's a children's author.
My point here is they had a discussion. They said, actually, you know what? The views are questionable. Let's not give her a coin. Does it diminish her? No. She's still going to sell millions of books. She's still in history. We're just saying that she doesn't deserve
And I think that's very sad. She's a great female British character. And, you know, I salute her. I wouldn't have one of those dolls that I'm not going to talk about.
We can't even talk about the dolls.
And I think there would be certain books that we wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't read to our children these day and age. But thanks very much. We've had loads of views on this. Let me just pick up Eleanor on Twitter. The Enid Blyton nonsense is crazy. I named my daughter, who's 26, Georgina, after George from the Famous Five because she's such a strong character. My George has grown up to be just as strong and adventurous as Enid's George.
Stephen on Twitter says, to be fair, he says, back in Enid's day, everybody was racist, homophobic and sexist. I'm not sure about that. There are... at the back end of these calls, we are now starting to get people agreeing with you. Helen on Twitter says, I was brought up in the 60s and my mum wouldn't let me read Enid Blyton. This is in the 60s. As she said, she was racist and sexist, and I don't let my children either. And one more, Judy on Twitter says, yes, the excuse, well, everybody was racist back then, that references Steve, doesn't wash. I think we should leave her works on the shelves and move on. So there is division out there.
Yeah, I think we're in a dangerous time. You've got parents protesting about having homosexuality taught in schools. We have this kind of reversion of the right about what is Britain and whiteness. And actually, if you look at children's books, this is one of the key areas where it's really, really conservative. And we need to shift it and move away from people like Enid Blyton.
You make your arguments very reasonably.